We're going to be talking about home safety, fire safety, all sorts of fun stuff with Oscar Ayala. He's fire captain and public information officer with the Orange County Fire Authority. Thanks for joining us.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first, tell me a little bit about yourself. You weren't always here. You've been 10 years with Orange County Fire Authority. Where did you start your career?
Yeah, so I kicked off my career with the city of Oceanside. I spent about 10 years there. Great organization. And then had the opportunity to come up here with the Orange County Fire Authority, and just have been very lucky to be part of such a great, big, and dynamic organization. You never get bored here. There's so many things and opportunities, events, special pieces of apparatus. You really get to hone in on your craft, practice your craft. So yeah, it's been an amazing opportunity working here.
Now, when you started off, were you doing like paramedic fire truck, or were you doing on the regular fire truck, or were you doing what did you start off at?
Yeah, so for me in particular, I did start off working as a paramedic.
Okay.
There's definitely different avenues that you can take, but when I first started, I got picked up as a firefighter paramedic. So all my training started beforehand. So going to the community college, going to certain courses, obtaining certifications, being tested, and then finally certified so that I was able to apply for a position. And my first position was a dual purpose of a firefighter and a paramedic. And I took turns riding on a fire truck and then riding on an ambulance.
Okay.
So that's how I got started.
Okay. Now, is that kind of the trend where you really have to have that paramedic training if you want to work in an urban environment, like any kind of cities, Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego? Because so many of your calls really aren't about fighting fires, they're medical calls, car accidents, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that roughly 80% of what we do, it has a medical portion of it. And as far as do you need it to get started? Well, it's a very dynamic question and answer that goes with that, because some entities do require it, that you come in as a paramedic. There's some other agencies that will support you and train you becoming a paramedic. But it certainly helps if you already have it, because when you can come in you can hit the ground running.
Right, exactly.
Then you're a big asset to the organization, because, like I said, the majority of the things that we do have a paramedic foundation behind it, and it is the majority of the emergency calls that we run.
Okay. Now, when did you transition from like daily firefighting out there, waiting for the calls, 72-hour shifts, all that kind of stuff, to say, hey, I might give this public information officer stuff a try, represent the county at media events or emergencies and those kind of things? When did that transition happen, and what made you say, hey, this is an attractive road?
Yeah, so I would say in the last 10 years, communication is key, right? We have social media. Communication moves so fast, and I think it's very key to stay updated and update our communities on what we're doing, and most importantly, to stay safe. So the opportunity came up that the OCFA was going to pick up some part-time public information officers, so I raised my hand and was fortunate enough to be picked. So so now I take my training, my education, my experience, and I get to share it with the public. But more importantly is to make sure to provide a product that keeps them safe. So, as we very well know, everybody's attached to their phones. They want information, and they want the information now. So that's what we do, and that's very exciting to me. And it just, at the end of the day, it allows us to keep the community safe, provide information quickly so they can make the right decisions.
Right. When you're at the emergency scenes, you're at the fire, you're at the whatever the hazmat situation might be, you can get that information out. People in the community get to know.
Yeah.
The other side of that is also a little bit of education and outreach. We're going to talk a little bit about that right now. I want to talk a little about safety tips for people in their home. What are the best practices? Lithium-ion batteries are everywhere now, and people store them. They charge them. So what are some of the things that you guys do in terms of tips about how to have those charged in your homes, where to store them, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, so you took the words out of my mouth. That lithium-ion batteries are everywhere. They're in our pockets with our cell phones. They're inside of our homes, in our garages with our power tools.
They're in our cars.
In our cars. And even when you step away from your home, there's a lot of commercial and industrial settings with the lithium-ion batteries. So the technology is great. It really is. It powers us. It gives us a lot of ability to stay charged the majority of the day. But one of the things that we do need to be careful about is just doing good assessments on our lithium-ion batteries, because they do get old, they get bumped, they get damaged, and that's when we start seeing some issues.
They can rupture, right? And that's what the major thing is, when those can cause a fire and rupture.
Right, and then when they do rupture, it hits something called thermal runaway, where it's basically, it starts having its own party, its own off-gassing, it catches fire, and it can explode too, sending shrapnel out. So it's very important to do an assessment on your batteries, make sure that you're buying quality batteries, buying quality accessories that are backed by Underwriter Laboratory, by entities that have tested it and deemed it safe.
Have those tags on there. Some of the knockoff stuff from overseas sometimes can be a little bit dangerous, a little bit faulty, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then really, if you have questions, it's best to call the manufacturer that you purchased it from and get their advice of where you should buy the accessories from.
Now, the lithium-ion batteries are also, you can't put those fires out in the traditional way, or it takes a lot more to put out lithium fire, especially with a car fire like Teslas and things like that, right? That's the kind of the new training, or the way you guys approach those things?
Yeah, so lithium-ion batteries, the fire itself is relatively new to us. The technology has been around quite a bit, but we're seeing it more and more often, and they're certainly challenging us quite a bit. Traditionally, with our legacy fires, we'll put fire and the fire goes out. We watch it, make sure it's cleaned up, and we can go home with no worries. Lithium-ion batteries are very complex. We can control them with traditional methods with water. However, they tend to still be working inside their concealed environment.
Yeah, there's some sort of combustion going on with or without the water going on there?
Correct. So, there's been the theory of, hey, just drown it with water, or take away the oxygen, you can bury it. And those are all good tactics, and sometimes they work, and then sometimes we end up revisiting them because the technology in there and the way that it's made up can continue burning for up to 3 weeks sometimes. So,
wow.
So for us, it's just imperative that, number one, we do our due diligence to keep everybody safe. So life safety is going to be our number one priority, pulling people out, making sure people are in safe areas, protecting property and our environment too. So the way that we do that is if we can remove the battery out of a building, put it in a safe, open location, so if it does its thing, it's out of the way and it's not going to complex anything further. And then work with a safe disposal process so that we can get it out and then put it in a safe area. So if it does burn up again, we're not threatening anybody's lives or property.
Yeah. Now, I know you guys do training on putting out home fires and those kinds of things, training all sorts of things. Is there training for lithium ion, or is it just too dangerous to mess with chemically wise? Like, oh, we're going to start ion battery fires and try to put them out. How do you guys train on that? Or is it just like the experience of actually going to the actual fires? Yeah,
so it's pretty hard to just take some lithium-ion batteries and set them on fire. It's probably not the smartest thing to do. But what we are doing is we're educating ourselves.
Right.
We are educating ourselves on how these batteries are being made, where they're being stored, how we can keep them safe, and how to effectively extinguish them, or at least control them when they go up. So as of right now, we're not physically taking lithium-ion batteries and experimenting with them, but we're certainly trying to educate ourselves with the literature that's out there and make good, solid, safe decisions out in the fire ground.
Right. Now, we just sprung forward recently, and that means it's time to check our batteries in our home for our fire alarms, right? And that's an important safety thing that we want to do twice a year. Why is that so important to make sure that we have the alarms and the batteries are good and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, the reason is smoke alarms save lives, hands down. And the NFPA will echo that statement because they state that you have a 60% chance of survivability if you have working fire alarms and you have a fire in your house. So that is your lifeline. When we're sleeping and we're comfortable and we're not really paying attention to what's going around the house, we're relying on the smoke alarms to alert us. So it's imperative that we do our monthly checkouts, push that little button.
Get the little squeak,
sure
plug your ears if you can.
That's right, put on some earplugs and just kind of bear with it for 10 seconds. checking those monthly, and like you said, about every 6 months when the time changes, replace the batteries. I know some of them, some smoke alarms are hardwired to your to your home, but if in the case we have a power outage, then that power is eliminated, and now we're relying on the battery. So it's always important to change those batteries every 6 months. And then in addition to that, the lifespan of these smoke alarms are roughly 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes it can be less, sometimes it could be a little bit more.
I think I need to change my smoke alarms completely in my house. I've been there 10 years now.
Yeah. So it's always a good idea to replace those and just make sure that you have new ones in there, so we're not second guessing the function of our
And when
smoke
you hear that
alarms.
little beep, that means the battery, it's giving you a warning usually, right? That the battery's, hey, this battery's starting to fade. They have that built-in safety kind of feature.
Yeah, that's correct. So if you hear a little chirp, it's important to get up in there and get those batteries replaced.
Absolutely. What should residents do in terms of, we're in a fire danger in Orange County. Almost every city now knows they're if you're anywhere near wilderness, you're in a fire evacuation zone almost. It seems to be that's the case. What should people be doing to make sure they have like a checklist of things they need to grab, where they need to go, and all those kinds of things?
Yeah, but I think one of the things that we can all do is just have some self-awareness of where we stand if there's an emergency to happen. And that's, just being in touch with news, social media, so that we're getting alerts when those alerts are coming out. That's very important. But also taking some accountability of what's going on around your home, making sure that we're not compounding any problems that might rise. So keeping things free of clutter, keeping things green if things are drying out, just bringing it to someone's attention so those things can be addressed. But moving forward too is, yes, having a checklist, because when the alarm is sounded and we got to get out of there, we want to make sure we're not second guessing what we need to bring. So having that checklist of what's important, medications, if we have pets, making sure that we're packing for them, any important documents, money, cell phones, chargers, things that you are going to need to sustain yourself for the next 24, 72 hours.
Right, make sure you have your all your stuff, especially medications for our senior community here. Those you might not be able to come home and grab those again for an extended period of time, so make sure you have those things with us. One of the things that's always been a challenge in the past, and I think that we've gotten better about that as fire authority and all this as a community, is when people had their pets and they'd go to shelter, oh no, the pets can't come in here, and people really, those are challenges that people have, like not wanting to be separated from the animals or them having to go to a separate shelter and that kind of thing. Has that kind of eased up over the years and people have an understanding that that's maybe not the best way to handle it?
Yeah, 100%. I think we're always very open to everybody's needs. Everybody's needs are a little bit different. If we can accommodate our various needs, we're certainly going to do that. And pets are very important, and people value their pets very much. So we do strive to keep everybody together, family members, pets, whatever it is that is important to them. So we'll do everything in our power to accommodate that. However, if for some reason we're giving different instructions, it is important to follow our instructions. There's a reason for that. And we'll do our best to reunite everybody with their family members and their pets when it's safe to do so.
Now, we just got through winter. Here we are in the spring, but a lot of people have a gas heating in their homes, or carbon monoxide detectors are different than some smoke alarms, right? So if I might have a smoke alarm, but it's not going to give me that carbon monoxide notification, and that's a silent kind of killer, right? Because there's no real smell to that kind of thing. So should people make sure they're having that, or get those combination alarms in their homes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So carbon monoxide, it's that incomplete process when you have something burning in your house. It could come from a stove, it could come from a furnace.
Yeah, faulty heater, vents, something like that.
And it's a colorless gas. You can't smell it, so it is a little sneaky. And now, yes, if you go to your local hardware store, you can get alarms that do both. They detect smoke and then they detect the CO, but you can get them separate as well. But it's important to make sure that you have those in your home, because sometimes things get old, things are forgotten about, and they sneak up on us, and they can be the consequences can be quite significant.
Well, as you've worked with the Orange County Fire Authority, how have you seen like the cooperation between, the Huntington Beach has its own fire department, Irvine, that kind of thing, the cooperation between all of you guys in terms of when you guys are prepping for wildfire season, which is just around the corner, because that isn't always stay in its assigned area of Huntington Beach or, in the community that is. So how do you guys coordinate on a kind of a county-wide or even region-wide kind of way to make sure that you guys are doing everything you can for wildfire prevention and being prepped for the wildfires that are to come?
Yeah, good question. So we do a lot of work prior, before the fire season even starts. We definitely do our own internal training within Orange County Fire Authority, but we do recognize that when fires occur, we're going to be asking for help from our neighbors, Huntington Beach, Laguna Beach. So we always incorporate them in our training, and they do the same thing with us. So this gives us an opportunity to share our experiences. It gives them an opportunity to debut new pieces of equipment that we have. And we go over communications, tactics, the way that we're going to approach things, so that when the emergency does happen, we're not second guessing anything. Everything is very fluid, everything is very organized, and then in turn, we confine that fire as quickly and safely as possible. So we do incorporate them, and they incorporate us as well.
Was Pacific Palisades and the fires that we had in Los Angeles kind of an eye-opener to all fire authorities, not just you guys, but eye-opener in your community of just how rapidly something like that can get out of control, and the realities of just like the perfect storm of winds, dryness, and the heat and all of that kind of thing? And does it kind of change the approach you guys take to, if this situation happens, here's what we need to do?
So I think any fire, certainly the Pacific Palisades was a very significant fire, one of the most significant ones on record. But I think for any agency, no matter how small the fire is, there's always something we can take from it. If it's a different response, communications, resources, whatever that might be, there's always a takeaway. But yeah, we live in Southern California. We're vulnerable. I mean, we just have to look to the east and see the brush out there. And if we have the right temperature, the right conditions and winds, we can be moving and shaking really quick. So the Palisades has certainly brought spotlight on, maybe more equipment or just things that will surface to better attack those certain types of fires. But like I said earlier, we train for them way before the fire season starts, so that if they do come, we're putting our best foot forward to mitigate that.
And I think a lot of people woke up to the idea that, hey, I live in the middle of a community center, a city center. We're way far. Nothing like that could ever happen here. I think, was that an eye opener for a lot of people? Like, gosh, there is no safe place from a fire like that.
Yeah, it's certainly an eye opener, because you're right. Sometimes you're sitting around a concrete area and you think, hey, I'm going to be safe. But we also have embers that get carried through our skies. So what's happening in a canyon is it is very dynamic, very violent, and it's creating embers, and it's carrying it towards the beach. And all it takes is one little ember to get into a palm tree, to get into an attic space, and then there's a whole new incident. So yeah, and then like I said before, it starts with some self-awareness of what's going on in our communities, and making sure that we're also on the lookout for those items. Don't let your guard down. If there's an incident going on, be proactive in your area, and if you see something, pick up the phone, call 911, send out the professionals so we can assess it.
And that's the thing. I tell you, there's been a couple fires in my community. I'm in Laguna Niguel, a couple brush fires on hills, and the response has been lightning fast. Just knock it down as fast as possible with helicopters, on the ground, and just the perimeters you guys can do. And that's really important, right? To kind of nip it in the bud as soon as you can, and that takes that coordination of agencies and air and ground, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of where the fire is at or the size, we're going to send an arsenal of resources, because the smaller the fire, the better. We're not going to mess around with that. We've seen it in the news of how quick they can grow, and the detrimental effects it can have in our communities. So yes, if there is a fire in Orange County, you're going to get a lot of resources, and we aim at putting that fire out as quickly as quickly as possible. So yeah, you're going to see air assets, ground assets. You're going to see help from neighboring agencies and certainly Orange County Fire Authority agencies.
What could people in their communities here in Laguna Woods do around their home? What should they be looking for? Openings and eaves and vents, a shrubbery around the house, things like that. What are some of the kind of tips you guys like to give out generally to help prevent or make your house as fire safe as possible? Nothing's fireproof, but as fire safe as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is just keeping an eye on your vegetation around your house. Things get dried up and things heat up, and we're like, hey, we're going to pull these plants out and replace them with some new ones. If things are getting a little bit dried out, maybe pull them out, keep them away from your home. Even bark, the decorative bark, that dries out.
That's
and
wood.
If it catches, it's wood, and if it catches an ember and it's right up against your house, you can imagine what could happen. So if it's maybe just scraping it away from your house for a few weeks while the heat passes by, do that. Also, yes, take a look at your eaves. We have birds and mice that carry little pieces of grass, and they put them in the
Right, they make their little nests, and all of a sudden that dries out.
So, and then if we have an ember fly in there, we might have a side of a home that starts burning up, even though the fire is down a ways.
Yeah, a couple miles away.
Yeah, so keeping things clean and orderly around your house, specifically with the vegetation, is very important.
You guys like to do the open houses. You like to be open about people coming in and seeing that kind of thing. Why is it important for you guys to have that great community relationship?
Yeah, so open houses is an opportunity to have that one-on-one conversations with the firefighters and the public, so that they can ask questions. Maybe they're inquiring about an incident that may have happened. It's a personal one-on-one connection. So we always promote it, and we open up our firehouses so they can come in and meet the first responders that are down the street from you and establish that relationship. So it's very important, because a lot of times some of the messages that we deliver could be a little vague, but maybe you're wondering like, well, hey, I got a question about this specifically. Well, that's the opportunity to do it. And it gives everybody some time to check out your local firehouses, look at the fire trucks, the equipment, and then know what's in there. So when you're driving down the street, you're just not wondering. It's like, hey, I have a connection with the folks that are in the station. I've seen it, and then you get brought into the family.
All right, Captain Ayala from the Orange County Fire Authority, Public Information Officer. When you come back, we're going to have you back. We're going to talk about Station 22, why it's the busiest one in Orange County, and the new coming Station 12. We're going to talk about that as well. So that is a little preview for next time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Right.
You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.